I think we're
All right.
probably okay to start.
Well, Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to the January 11th Social Justice Task Force meeting. I will now call this meeting to order. All right. And then in terms of the Pledge of Allegiance, Krupa, would you mind doing the Pledge of Allegiance? I think Jasmine can display on the screen.
Sure. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Jasmine, I understand that we have a new task force member. So at this point, do we want to do the swearing in for the new task force member?
Yes, we have the city clerk who will assist us in swearing in the new task force member.
Oh, it helps if I unmute myself. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you. I don't see Mito in the meeting, Jasmine. Mito, if you're on the call. So I don't mind hanging out in the meeting until he comes in, and we'll just do it after whichever item you're on or at the end. So I'll just stay in the background. Thanks, everyone.
So we have
Thanks,
to move,
Melissa.
do we have to move this item to the end, or are we okay? Just
No, because it's fine. We can just
Okay.
make a note in the minutes that we were waiting for the new task force member to come in.
okay. Good. All right, roll call. So Jasmine, do you want to do the roll call
Sure. Jonathan Wilson,
here?
Krupa Desai,
Here.
Marcus Smith,
Aye. Here.
Giselle Washington,
Here.
Jorge Separac,
Here.
Shannon Morton.
Here.
Great. Thank you for that. And then now in terms of approval of the minutes, do we have anybody who wants to motion to approve the minutes?
Aye.
You want a motion to approve the minutes?
I do.
All right. And anybody want a second?
Second.
All right. Jasmine, do you want to do the vote?
Sure. Jonathan Wilson,
Aye.
Krupa Desai,
Aye.
Marcus Smith,
Aye.
Giselle Washington,
Aye.
Jorge Separac.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Great. In terms of public comment, my understanding is that there isn't anybody who asked for public comment ahead of time. However, this time is set aside for public comment. The public is given the opportunity to address the Social Justice Task Force on any item within its responsibility. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Social Justice Task Force cannot take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Each speaker will be allotted 2 minutes, and time may be limited or increased based on the discretion of the task force. This public comment period is to address the Social Justice Task Force on agenda items and/or items of general interest within the jurisdiction of the Social Justice Task Force. If there's anyone who didn't sign up to speak and wishes to provide comment, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. And we will pause to see if anybody is going to raise their hand. All right, at this time, I would believe that no public comment will be made. Let's move on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item number 7, the subcommittee reports. So I think this is a chance for us to discuss the progress and request actions of the task force. So this is something that we're going to do in preparation for the city council report out. Can I ask the city staff to lead us in this discussion?
Sure. So I know that we haven't really been able to convene, but we wanted to include this item just in case there were topics or subject matter that you all wanted to discuss that weren't a part of, let's see, item 9 about the pop-ups. If there's not much to report, we can kind of continue that conversation about the pop-ups when we talk about planning for that and different engagement strategies. But just wanted to include it just in case.
Yeah, I would like to say for the Economic Development Committee, because we haven't had a full task force, that there is traction that we did make up to, I think, November. That can be noted just in terms of we want to make sure that we are making life better for our inhabitants and the business owners. I think we can draw up, I think there's some things that we need to draw up and perhaps maybe send you. Can we send you via email, or do we need to talk about it here? What's the process for us making sure that you have those updates, the latest updates, meaning those from November?
Yeah, you can email them if you want. You can provide a brief kind of overview here and then email them to me, but email is more than fine.
Yeah, because I think I need to circle back and just make sure that John, we're consistent. So
Right.
that's why I'm not verbally saying exactly everything. So
Email is more than fine.
okay. I'm sorry that I should have done that ahead of time, but I didn't.
No problem. Okay.
Anybody else want to speak? All right, we're like cranking through this. I think everybody's in the post-holiday, like, let's just move on. So the next item number 8, then, the task force will hear from the City of West Hollywood's Community and Legislative Affairs Division regarding the request for proposals to complete a historical context study of the City of West Hollywood. So at this time, would the city staff like to walk through their thought process?
Sure. So let's see. I'll make sure to share my screen in a bit. But this evening, I will provide a brief overview of an upcoming agenda item that authorizes the issuance of a request for proposals to complete a historical context study of the City of West Hollywood. And to provide a bit of background, at the December 6th City Council meeting, Council directed staff to prepare and issue the RFP with the intent that the study would inform the city on next steps in establishing initiatives to address racial equity in West Hollywood. And as many of you know, the city is steadfast in its commitment to creating a welcoming and inclusive environment for everyone, which is why the RFP seeks to recognize and acknowledge the history of the land and tell the historical narrative of the indigenous communities that first occupied the area, and then the subsequent history of how the demographics shifted over time. The main focus of the RFP will be to highlight the policies and practices that may have led to cultural and racial discrimination during the 19th and 20th centuries, and how these practices and policies may have shaped the demographic of the landscape in West Hollywood. So I will share my screen just in case we want to reference. I believe everyone can see it, right? Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Great. So I know that you all didn't have much time to review it, but the bulk of the information that we really wanted you all to kind of give feedback on, aside from the RFP, is just the scope, which really talks about what we'll be looking for, in addition to the timeline that we've proposed, the RFP schedule, and the proposal details. So we're hoping that you all have been able to review the RFP and kind of take in some of the information and provide notes on it, and at least be able to have a conversation. If there are questions tonight, we can answer those. And if you want, you can feel free to take some more time with the document and then provide notes to staff. As long as we get them by Thursday, we can send a memo to council that reflects your notes and feedback.
Yeah, I'm sorry, send by when?
By this Thursday.
Okay, excellent. And if we have recommendations for groups that may be, entities that might be able to respond to this RFP, how do we do that without showing favoritism or engaging in any kind of, I don't know, nepotism practice, I guess. I don't know what the right word is.
Andy, feel free to correct me, but I think if that's included in your notes and feedback, I think that should be fine, as long as there aren't, conversations, obviously, between you and the people that may submit a proposal. I think that's more than fine.
Yeah, so the RFP is gonna go live after it's approved by the council on January 18th at the council meeting.
Yep.
So January 19th, basically, it will be available for anyone who's interested in submitting a proposal. And so you all, as members of the task force, are free to send it to whoever you think may be qualified and interested, and they can submit a proposal. Staff's going to do the internal review based on how it's outlined in the RFP. So that wouldn't create any issues if you have people who may be qualified.
Thank
you. Just to add on to Jasmine's background on this, as one of the attachments to this report, or to the RFP, is the staff report that went to council. So if you haven't read that yet, that might give more context to where this is coming from and hopefully next steps. But the council definitely wants the Social Justice Task Force to be included in this conversation now, and as we move forward in terms of next steps. So that's why we're bringing it for you now, to get your feedback, and as well as just to let you know that this is going to be an ongoing project that you'll be included in as we move forward.
So this is something I read a little bit earlier, and this is, I will definitely write up some feedback, but the one thing I thought of was we also should include the 21st century if there has been any discrimination. Let's not assume that there hasn't been any.
Valid.
Any other comments or feedback?
I only had the opportunity, honestly, to skim just before this meeting. And so absolutely we'll commit to reviewing and providing any additional feedback that I have. I will just say, at a high level, I was really excited to see this come through. So really think it's terrific that the city council is moving on this. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for recommendations and policy that come from whatever we learned through it. I'm just disappointed in looking at the timeline that some of it will be resolved after, our official time is over on this task force.
Thank you, Krupa. One other thing I wanted to point out is that we've included in the RFP that the consultant will meet with the social justice task force, in advance of the work being started. So that way you all are able to have that conversation and engage with them in that way and really take part in the process.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, this is very exciting.
Okay, well, I don't want to rush anything. If you all are able to kind of review this in its entirety, we did include examples of other cities that have also engaged in racial equity work. And we also wanted to clarify in the RFP, I think the wording historical context statement and historical context study can be a bit confusing. So we kind of distinguished the difference between the two. There are examples of cities that have done historical context statements where they focus on a theme or a particular group of people. So we've included examples of that as well. The documents are really large, so we didn't include them as PDF documents, but links in the agenda packet. So feel free to check those out as well. But if not, let me stop sharing my screen. Again, as long as you can get those notes and feedback by Thursday, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. So moving on, any other comments before we move on to the next item? All right. So now let's move on to agenda item number 9. So discussion about the subcommittee community pop-ups to elicit feedback and input from the community on the task force priorities. So that's something that I believe the city staff is going to champion.
Sure. Yeah. So, wow, last year, we started the conversation and started to kind of plant those seeds of whether or not we wanted to engage with the community in that way. I know, I can't remember who it was, but there was a concern that we wouldn't be able to have the in-person component of the pop-up, but I think city staff feels pretty confident that we will be able to. And now it's just a matter of what we want that to look like. Originally, we discussed the possibility of each subcommittee planning and coordinating their own and deciding when they wanted to have that pop up and what it would look like. So we wanted to bring this item back and have that discussion.
One of the things I think might be helpful for the task force members to think about is, on the timing of these. Is your goal to kind of have some recommendations and ideas in mind and then be able to bring that forward to community members in this public way and ask their consideration? Or do you want to do it sort of on the front end and go to the community? I think sometimes it might be a little bit easier to have some things in mind already to bring forward and allow people to provide feedback, and then they can also provide their other ideas in addition to that. But might be something that you want to consider, and that might impact also the timing.
I like the idea of what you're saying, Andy. I think the idea of pressure testing, for lack of better phrases, what we're thinking already. So maybe like coming to the table with 10 thoughts and just seeing how the public reacts to our 10 ideas and which ones they think are higher priority or not. I think that probably could be something that we could all kind of use as guidance. I just like your thought on that. I don't know. Anybody else? All right. Jasmine, did you want to add any additional color around the potential concerns if we don't have some ideas baked before we have the pop-ups? Like what might that look like if we just go kind of white space?
I think the biggest issue we would probably run into is drawing folks to the pop-ups. So I'm hoping that it's something we could push through maybe our social media channels just to kind of encourage folks to kind of come out. But what I don't want to happen is for, the public safety, that's kind of the subcommittee that I'm assisting with, for us to have a table and, people to kind of come up and then say, we're interested in hearing what you think about public safety, which is a lot. And people may not be able to provide the feedback that we want because we're asking such a broad question. So I do think that it's probably important for us to whittle that down. Maybe we come up with surveys. Each subcommittee creates a survey, and the survey is what we use to engage with folks on. And it's something that's not necessarily too long or extensive, but something that'll give us a good idea of how people feel about each priority area.
Maybe guiding talking points also.
Right.
That.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Giselle, what are your thoughts?
Are there designated locations for the pop-ups already, or is that something subcommittees will chat about?
No, that was something that we said we would discuss as well. Yeah, I mean, the great thing about West Hollywood is that we do have space available, and we aren't really having in-person events. So we do have flexibility in deciding where we want to have the pop-ups take place.
Awesome. So like no restrictions against maybe a table in front of Trader Joe's, or there's where we know there's going to be traffic or something like that.
When it comes to specific businesses, we may have to work with them and just make sure that's okay. I guess in my mind, I was referring to our parks, even a space maybe close to City Hall or outside of City Hall. But it's definitely something we can try and figure out.
I think Giselle has a good point in the sense that maybe it's a good idea to have some best practices or some recommended guidelines. Like, for example, do we make sure that we're addressing both the east side of West Hollywood as well as the west side of West Hollywood to make sure we get a good cross-section of the community, different times of day, what are some recommendations from things that have worked in the past?
We can kind of connect with our communications department at the city, as well as some other divisions that have done similar community engagement strategies, and talk to them about some best practices. I think doing a survey like Jasmine mentioned, having like a list of a few options that people can rank as their top priorities or the most important thing for them might be helpful. To kind of like narrow it down. And then, if we did have a survey or something, we could also make it available online. So if people weren't just in person, they could access it. Things are a little bit difficult right now with COVID surging. And so that might be a good option to get more people on board. We could also, do that like in the nearer future, then maybe a pop-up that might take a little more planning. But if you want, we can kind of talk internally about some best practices and bring that back.
I mean, to your point, maybe it's a 1-2 punch, right?
Yeah,
The survey via the website and then follow up with the pop-up.
yeah.
I like that idea. Someone had a hand up and then put it down. I don't recall. I saw it quick.
I think that may have been me. The royal siblings. So obviously it's pretty dangerous now where, with the numbers going up. So how can we get creative in terms of a pop-up shop? I do like the survey scenario, and I had a thought to expand that. If we could do that by QR code, then that way people could do that scanning from a distance, access the survey via the internet, or even on their own time. But because in person is so critically, dangerous right now, how about something like a social media campaign? Something that we could send out to WeHo residents and, maybe even use the West Hollywood television programming as a way to amplify the survey.
Shayla's creative juices are always flowing. I like the QR code a lot. I think that maybe businesses might want to participate too by having the QR code up and people could scan that. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Anybody else have any additional things to add? All right, well, we're definitely cruising. So item number 10, so discussion around community partners, business owners, community activists, service providers, and stakeholders of interest to the task force. Are there any speakers for this item? If so, and you're interested in providing comment, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. All right. This may be the quickest meeting we might have had. So item number 11. So this is items from the staff. So the question here is, this time is set aside for city staff to provide information to the Social Justice Task Force on items of interest to the task force. Is there anybody who'd like to speak to this item?
So I don't have anything outside of the reminder to get me the feedback about the RFP. And then we will still be meeting Tuesday, January 25th. So just a reminder about that too. And that's it for me. I don't think I have anything else.
On the 25th, I mean, I guess this is, we need to notice and agendize all of that kind of stuff, but are there things that we know we're going to be addressing in that meeting? I just want to make sure that we have enough time, like, to do some work in between so that we can come and engage even more meatily, on things and keep the work moving.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we've kind of been discussing as staff too. I think depending on what people's schedules look like, it may be beneficial for the subcommittees to try and meet before that meeting. Maybe we can flesh out some of the things we've talked about this evening in regards to the pop-ups and what we want that to look like. But yes, we will make sure that for the next meeting, we will be taking concrete steps towards making or drafting those recommendations that we want to present to council. Absolutely.
Well, without the new task force member being sworn in, the economic development subtask force won't be able to, or subcommittee won't be able to meet. Is that correct?
Remind me who is
The new person. I don't know who the new. I don't know names.
No, who else
Okay.
is on the task force?
It's Shayla and myself.
Okay. I don't think it should be a problem. If you want, I can kind of help and coordinate with you all if both of you still want to meet. Yeah, let's do that. And then I'll make sure to work with the city clerk in getting the new task force member sworn in at the January 25th meeting.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. And I guess, is there anything else that anybody wants to speak to?
As another item from staff, sorry, Krupa, to cut you off. I just wanted to let everyone know that if you didn't know already, that John Leonard is, he got a promotion. So he's not the manager in Community and Legislative Affairs Division anymore. He's the newly created Economic Development Director.
Oh, great.
So perfect, right in line with what you just said, Jonathan. And I was just going to say we should still have John participate in your subcommittee meeting if you'd like to. And Yvonne Corker, who some of you might know from her days as city clerk, and then was recently appointed to the Director of Administrative Services Department. She is now our director in our new department. She's here today listening in. So I just wanted to let you all know about that internal change, and Jasmine and I will keep moving this forward, and Yvonne is here to assist us as well. And John can still contribute his expertise when needed. So just wanted to let you all know about that.
Excellent. Yvonne, did you want to say anything, or should we just keep moving?
I'll just say hello. I was trying to turn on my camera. I don't know what happened. I didn't have, oh, here I am.
Here you are.
Hi. So I am the new director for a newly created department, Community Services, and it is comprised of Community and Legislative Affairs, which Jasmine and Andy are a part of, and Event Services, which is a whole other team that some of you may know. So I'm super excited. I had sat in on one of these meetings just in the background beforehand, so I'm super excited to be officially a part of the department and division that oversees this wonderful group. So I look forward to the great work that you're all going to do.
Thanks. Were you the same
And
person
have been
who got
doing.
the white fragility?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I
Yeah.
helped, with that.
Very good. Excellent. Well, welcome to the team. With that said, I guess it's time to adjourn. So the Social Justice Task Force will adjourn to its next regular scheduled meeting on Tuesday, January 25th, 2022 at 6 p.m., which will be held via teleconference as well. So thank you all. Appreciate this. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Jasmine. Bye.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Night, everybody.